Alright, this is an entire new argument that I need to assess and make points on. Number one, black men are not entirely innocent, nor should they be given excuses for their maladaptive behavior and ignorance towards black women's issues. There is a wealth of knowledge in libraries, books, and alternative media that the reason that most black men tend to feign awareness of black women's issues is to save face or avoid being insecure or responsible for the other behaviors or actions of other black men. From what I have seen, and I admit I have not actively sought out to look for in my immediate circles, life experiences, and what I've seen on media, there are rarely few black men who go into politics to make a difference in a legislative and government matter. The usual plan is to become a cop, a men's health guru, or coach, find themselves propping up the same institutions that make upward class movement possible. Hakeem Jeffries, Michael E. Langley, that one black man in, I don't know if he was in Congress or the court or Justice Supreme, but this guy, that guy, I don't like that guy. He's horrible. If it's not that, it's to exclusively pursue creative talent that requires no force or friction on behalf of that person. That could be rap, music, fashion, video games, etc. Of that effort, of all these jobs or class positions I stated out, all the effort put into complaining about issues that affect them in these social circles or groups could be used for more direct action. Black men have a lot of ego on their soldiers. They have a lot of baked-in misogyny and built-in ignorance when it comes to looking outside of themselves and being empathetic to issues outside of their own. They enjoy having a lot of bravado. They enjoy having a brash and short-tempered personality. They enjoy having all eyes on them. If it's not about them, and if they're being criticized, it turns into a black man is being persecuted and a black man is a victim issue. It's not productive. It is not useful in any amount. A lifestyle change and a mindset change needs to happen in order for black men to be more useful to their female counterparts, in general, their own class struggle. These arguments I have stated involves you, me, and every black man we will ever meet in our lives in the low-income class, working class, middle class, and upper class. Let it be known, I'm the black man's greatest critic, their worst enemy for persistent opposition. I am your shadow when you consider acting a fool. In the same vein, I am my biggest critic. I am my greatest hater. I will forever hold myself in contempt, anger, and fear. Why? Well, because the mistakes I made thus far is a reflection and confirmation of the actions of every black man who has been born and went on to hurt women in their lives. It is a confirmation and persistent belief that confirms every woman's worst suspicions and fear of me. I'm committed to keeping myself accountable so I do not make the same mistakes again. When I do make those mistakes, I cannot let myself off the hook. I do not want degenerates or slacks or whack jobs near me. I can appreciate their knowledge and insight in certain areas of life, but I will not adopt their lifestyles, mindsets, or approach in living my life. You can make excuses for the plight and struggles of black men all you want, but the cycle starts and ends with us. Men begin this traumatic cycle of violence, rape, assault, and manipulation. They also very much have the power to clean up and hold each other accountable with rigorous standards and stringent conduct to behave better than today the week before, the year prior, and the decade last. I can sympathize with the average youth from the hood or ghetto. For these people, they were molded in degeneracy. They have fangs. They are unwittingly traumatized soldiers, drafted into a war they willingly draft themselves into because nobody has been there or was there to show them an alternative narrative, a fictional reality, or a guideline to achieve a dream separate from their own destitute life. But I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about who I outlined in my argument. My sympathy can only go so far. If you are 40, still gangbanging, abusing your relationships, and leaving more single mothers than holding down mortgages, while wearing jerseys, college varsity sweaters, and wife beaters, and convincing your youth and children to pursue the same life, unknowingly or not, I cannot treat you with first impression respect. I'm aware of your overall dysfunction that may impact your choices to lead you to the life you're living. But at the same time, it starts and ends with the choice to be better. It starts and ends with the choice to stop doing drugs. It starts and ends with the choice to get your life together. It's a you choice. It is not a system's choice to come up behind you and clean you up. We can minimize the damage. Society can minimize the damage. We can make preventative measures. We can educate people to minimize people getting in these situations. We can make support programs to aid these people. But at the end of the day, their choices to change themselves are up to them. It doesn't mean we can't convince them either way to be better. Don't get it twisted. I am not a feminist. What I am interested in being or creating for men is to make a base or movement of men who are staunchly against what it means to be traditionally masculine. Something militaristic, disciplined, organized, skillful in many trades and well-learned various arts. So divorced from the idea that a man must exist for a woman to be whole. That a man's soul, body, and image only exists to create, furnish, build, and harbor growth that disappears and leaves a garden around his grave. Black men, as I know them right now, do not want to fill out that role or do not want to be that image. Who are you to determine whether Black Americans were better off before segregation? Do you mean to argue that going against a white institution was a bad idea, a negative permanent decision? What your forefathers and predecessors, not by blood relation, but by association of skin color, were their efforts in installing your safety in white America all for nothing? Are you saying just because we were more together back then, and the nebulous time you romanticize was more important than securing generations of capital, of lives, of respect, because you think the Black man is being held down because things are more democratized or people have more freedoms as Black Americans in current modern day America? Are you saying all of this because you want a man to feel happy about his idealized image of an atomic nuclear family, so the man can feel good about himself being a breadwinner, so the man can feel big and strong because he's performing a gender role that was constructed for him by white America? You're speaking with white nationalist talking points. You sound like a Ku Klux Klan member who wants to keep Black Americans in their era of stagnation. You sound like one of those washed up Black guys over 50 who can't admit that having a woman in the house or a wife is helpful in bringing up a son. It feels like you're the type of person to say that Black mothers can't bring up sons, that they're useless in that respect, that they'll tamper or destroy their development. This is to say that you are small. You're thinking small in terms of problems here, my man. America is built on capital. The suburb life is built in a way that optimizes land ownership and personal freedom. Cities are built according to financial interests and efficiency of businesses and corporations. Isn't unrealistic to think that you are going to feel alone and isolated. When the suburban sprawl and years of city planning data decides how humans are going to commune and live for the rest of their lives. In the same argument, you allude to the GI Bill, which were government handouts for individuals who served in the Army. This was borrowed from Black Americans, and it could have helped the family unit. Unfortunately, much of that wealth was borrowed, and in return stopped generational wealth that would have went into building communities. Redlining and refusing Black Americans from getting bank loans and housing is what really did the household and upward sociability for Black families. You are pointing in the right direction, but blaming the wrong culprit for who broke down the Black household. They locked up the sons and fathers, checked homes, and that received government assistance for men because at the time they didn't give out aid unless there wasn't a man present. This sounds similar to how a Black man complains about child support and how they can't hold themselves accountable for crimes they consistently commit as a way to avoid being a person that's dependable, or they don't put enough accountability on themselves or self-awareness or have a moral background to avoid stepping into these vices constantly. The way you frame this argument lifts off any blame from those men and put it exclusively on the government. As I said, I can be sympathetic to the environment and how it created you, but there comes to a point where you need to ask if the people who continue this lifestyle and mentality really want to stop or change for the better. It comes down to their choice. The best we can do is minimize that mentality and narrative by challenging it and advocating for change, protesting the actual factors who led to the situation, and holding people accountable and creating solutions to fix these problems. You can't keep pointing to the government or white people and expect our problems to be solved. You have to actually create solutions by protesting and making a change, by slowly talking about it up and making radical actions and being disruptive and supporting campaigns that actually gets the work done. Similarities and disparities between men and women in African and Black American society that cannot be understated, especially with how they are treated in media and socially. Okay, back at home, for women at least, some women have to face genitalia mutilation. They still have to fear that. There is also the occasional abuse from men who never seek mental evaluation. Despite that changing in Africa as we get more resources and institutions, there are men out there who refuse to go to therapy because they feel emasculated, weak, or scared. There is stigma around mental illness in Africa, and for the most part, for most Africans, it doesn't exist. It is spirits, it is fantasy. The rape and assault that could occur from a spilling out of refugees and guerrilla groups happens constantly in war countries. For men, being scooped off the street and being enlisted into a guerrilla war is all too common. Whether you like it or not, you will fight a war and become a nasty individual or a broken individual. Risking your life to jump on a boat to travel to the UK is common for sea shanty or desolate towns. Because life in a sea shanty town is just not, you just can't get anything from it. You have to make risks to find a better life somewhere else. Facing death or injury from the same guerrilla groups that attack your country and village from rival gangs. There are these issues that I find in Africa that I can draw parallels to a Black American society, how there's organized gangs from Black youths. In this case, they're willingly wanting to create crime because they have nothing better to do. And the media tells them that. I mean, what else are you going to do? But in Africa, it's much more coercive. It's much more, hey, you need to do this thing or we're going to kill you. Hey, you have no choice. You're still going to have to do it, whether you like it or not. Same thing with the abuses for women in both societies. Black Americans do not fall far from the tree of social issues that affect their lives. We are affected by the same things that affect you guys here now. Willing to bet that households and slaves before and after bondage still had familial issues even before desegregation. It was not all perfect, and it is silly and naive to assume that there was a point in time where it was. Do not romanticize this idea that at a single point in time where everybody was in community, the state of human happiness and standards of living must have been better, but only changed for the worse when Black Americans got organized, protested, and got the respect they deserved, and got desegregated, and could finally access facilities that they needed. Power structures and the diminishing value of traditional gender roles are what you're upset about. Power structures follow individuals who institutionally and traditionally hold power, whether that be in a family or a relationship. As long as men hold the power institutionally and systematically practice their power by competition, creating ridicule, using their incompetence as a means to seem smart, and etc., we will continue to see men who use those liberties to play out fantasies, keep control over things, to seek out and validate themselves within that system. But now, since women are able to hold down jobs, are more educated about what they term as patriarchal system or a rape society, they have a much more easier time and simple means of avoiding bullshit from dusty Black men. I would like to think, if you continue with this line of thinking that not everybody can be an activist or people in poverty have mouths to feed and can't participate in marching, I think Black Americans are going to have a much harder time making the statement that they have been wrong in the past, that their class struggle was a direct result of upper class meddling within laws and Congress and just class struggle in general. You'll end up at the conclusion of, what can you do? We've tried. When the only thing these people have tried doing is gawking at the craziness of the situation and moving on like nothing ever happened. And it's interesting in your argument that you come back full circle and admitted that Black people were better off before desegregation. It is extremely disappointing that as a black man, you refuse to believe that you aren't capable of being ignorant, self-centered, or fallible, in the sense that you are now becoming aware of an experience other than your own. I feel like I have mouths to feed. This attitude is part of a larger movement that has people opting out of causes that requires empathy and drive. Black Americans have culturally been the first responders of racial injustice. You can't tell me that civil rights leaders and followers would have rather buckled down and stayed quiet and said, I have mouths to feed, rather than fight for what is right. Sure, it might be another time and place, but I can't help but make similarities between police brutality and institutionalized racism within your own workplace. You know, the threat to stop you from protesting. I can't help but make those similarities, that these are systems that still exist, that we still need to fight and dismantle today in order to fix that generational trauma. These issues, these time periods, the now and the back then, are not exclusive to each other. They are connected and tied. I don't know if you're trying to play devil's advocate. I just don't really know. For me, it feels more like concited rambling of your insecurity. And it just comes off as stupid and misinformed. Look, there has already been people who have started at the bottom and made their way into high places. Jasmine Crockett fights for the rights of people in Texas every day by calling out the behavior of racists in Congress. FD Signifier continues to make videos to inform maybe a sizable white audience, but continues to reach people like me who didn't become privy to this stuff until 2021. There are also smaller black creators under him who have taken the same video style and made more educational videos educating black people about these issues. Toure is a journalist who has done work to interview people and keep his integrity in journalism. ECOP is an organization that I once used to help build some part of my creative identity with. It is a network that connects emerging talent with mentors to help people like you and me navigate the entertainment industry. Black community land trusts who have fought for their right to own land and farm it when America went back on their word of 40 acres and a mule exist, and they successfully pulled it off. I could share more nonprofits and etc., but this isn't the point. The main point of this is to put a spotlight and attention economy on these groups, these speakers and protesters. They deserve attention, not some random dude or podcast bros being Mr. I'm so deep because they recently grew conscious and are using big, beautiful, bold words to sound smart. Why is it such a relatable joke to say that what you learn in school won't be useful to you in the real world? Students not caring about their education and retarding their curiosity because they think social media points and validation is more important is precisely what I want to attack here. The idea that people who have not done the work, who have not interacted with solving the main issue, who speak on issues they deem are important when it's actually been talked about but is consistently ignored, highlights the insular nature of social media as a bubble. For lack of a professional term, it is an echo chamber. And the designers of these apps rely on the predication that the audience knows little to nothing about how the real world works. You'll be fed bite-sized, surface-level information, but your accountability when it comes to doing deeper research is waived because you lack curiosity and drive to make that personal choice. The 30-minute restriction you put on your phone to lock Instagram and any other app could be used to look up news, to hit up for a new book or any other resource to get educated beyond the screen. This is going to be the last time I lend my ear when it comes to hearing you impart the concept of grace. On an unrelated note, some Africans, Arabs, and Middle Easterners will tell you straight up to your face what the hell is wrong with you. Some people in the third world would do that because they do not have the time to tone police how they teach you or how they convey meaning to you. They will be direct, especially when you're a young adult. Muslims do not have a concept of grace. As far as I know, we just pray, do as we intend, do some self-introspection with Allah, move with Allah, and find success. No questions asked. Some Muslims are absolute and righteous in their nature. They hold their beliefs so strongly and so fundamentally that knocking the pendulum off its balance is bound to leave you dead or reprimanded harshly. It's part of the reason why Christianity kind of low-key sucks at keeping its believers going into the new age. There are so many vices young people want to enjoy that expecting Christianity to guide you away from its tough journey is really, that's a lot to handle as a Christian. If you did not have strict parents or did not grow up to be disciplined in education, behavior, or character. If you didn't have any of that, it's really easy to let social media and your friends take you off the path. And I can understand why some people find it hard to go through life struggling and succeeding. A related note, I am a Muslim, not religious but spiritual. I do not have time to treat you like a child. I'm speaking to you like I would any adult back at home or to an adult here in America. You are not a child, so I am not going to treat you like one. I'm not going to speak to you like one. I do not need to be gentle or need to have grace in speaking to you about real world issues or things. I definitely won't try to browbeat you, but if I feel like you're being egocentric, narcissistic, ignorant, stupid, I'm going to fucking tell you. I'm not gonna hide it or sugarcoat it. What do you want from me? Do you want me to spoon feed you information and comfort your ego as you become self-aware around how you educate yourself? Or do you want me to put you on the deep stuff? Do you want me to put you on books and important information and a regimen on how to move forward and become better professionally prepared for current world issues? I will reiterate that I never believe anybody is dull. Nobody is a machine. Nobody is an NPC. Nobody does not have a spark. I am under the assumption that everyone has something unique that makes them different from the next person. To say that I will always have a disconnect, I believe highlights how easy you react to criticism about you specifically. I have helped autistic special needs Black children bridge the gap between their fear and the complexity of a robot. I have volunteered at Black schools teaching children about the joys of computer science and thinking critically. I have made and helped a website for Black feminist scholars at our very university. I'm able to teach and mentor Black art students when I have the time. Assume I have no connection with anybody to act like I haven't done the work is so silly, is so jumping the gun that I can now understand why people get on your ass for having a big mouth or you getting and quite a lot of trouble when you talk to people around in school. In another breath of that same thought, thank you for reminding me that I've done these things recently because I've been too hard on myself. Okay, my last point comes to this thing where you accuse me of my black and white views. I constantly point out that my black and white views do not exist within America. It only exists outside of America. For America, it's a sliding scale, it's a gradient, it's where we need to move forward, who is doing what, and what can we do to get to a point where we can actually move the needle. When it comes to the global south and in war countries where manipulative foreign aid and corruption exists constantly, I am more cutthroat and black and white. Again, for America, my thinking is like a measuring tool in a timeline. For the global south, it's more direct, immediate, and radical. Again, here is where I think you're just being insecure and emotional to a point where you're refusing to actually read my texts and instead combine separate points of mine into one big argument and attacking different areas of it without actually understanding what I'm saying. Again, you're not arguing to debate or exchange points or even to learn. You seem to want to argue from the energy of being correct and wanting to be right rather than be wrong, or understand that you might be loose in some knowledge. For me, it's not about being right or wrong. It's about how much truth and certainty that you can extrapolate from observable material reality. What we gain from that is what we can use to forge paths moving forward to actually make an impact. And that starts with action. Doing the smallest you can do, whether that be making someone aware of an issue, whether that is actually going to a campaign and spotlighting the people who actually are well equipped to talk about these social problems and not having conversations that are surface level, that are all fluffy and philosophical and I don't know, man. I don't know. There's better people to be focusing on. There's better people to be listening to and to support than guys like him. I don't know.